The Titanic, a ship deemed unsinkable, met a disastrous end on its maiden voyage in 1912. But did an ancient curse play a part in this tragedy? Legend whispers of an Egyptian mummy, veiled in curses, secretly boarded onto this ill-fated ship. The disaster that unfolded that fateful night took more than 1,000 lives, leaving many to question if there was more than meets the eye. Was it just an iceberg that sank the Titanic, or was there a supernatural force at play? So, how did this cursed mummy legend originate? Let's delve deeper. The tale begins with an ancient Egyptian mummy, said to be on board the Titanic, believed to bring misfortune to those who encounter it. This mummy wasn't your typical museum exhibit. Wrapped in layers of linen, it was said to be the earthly remains of a powerful princess or priestess from Egypt's distant past. But this wasn't just any royal mummy, it was a mummy that bore a curse that promised disaster for those who dared disturb its eternal rest. The legend goes that a wealthy Englishman had purchased the mummy from an unscrupulous antiquities dealer. Unaware of the curse, he planned to bring the mummy home as a showpiece for his private collection. To transport the mummy, it was carefully packed in a large wooden crate and loaded onto the most luxurious ship of the time, the Titanic. As the story unfolds, the mummy's curse began to manifest itself in eerie and unexplainable ways. Some crew members reported hearing strange whispers and seeing unusual shadows near the cargo hold, while others complained of an unshakable feeling of dread that seemed to cling to the ship. Yet these incidents were dismissed as mere sailors' superstition. The Titanic was the marvel of her age, a ship so advanced and well-constructed that many believed her to be unsinkable. Who would have thought that a relic from an ancient civilization could threaten such a modern masterpiece? But before its voyage on the Titanic, the mummy was part of another troubling incident. The mummy had been housed in the Cairo Museum in Egypt. There, it had already earned a reputation as a cursed object. Museum staff reported a series of strange occurrences. Objects moving on their own, lights flickering without reason, and most disturbingly, a series of accidents and illnesses that befell those who worked closely with the mummy. The mummy's curse seemed to already be in effect, and the Titanic was its next target. In 1912, just before the Titanic's departure, a disturbing event took place at the Cairo Museum. The museum, a treasure trove of ancient Egyptian artifacts, was the home of the alleged cursed mummy. One day, under inexplicable circumstances, the mummy fell from its shelf, shattering into pieces. This incident sent shockwaves through the museum staff. Whispers of a curse started circulating, and the shattering of the mummy was seen as a bad omen, a forewarning of an impending disaster. What's even more intriguing is that the mummy was reportedly being prepared for a journey across the Atlantic, a journey aboard the ill-fated Titanic. A wealthy passenger had reportedly purchased the mummy and was transporting it in a large wooden crate in the ship's cargo hold. From the museum to the ship, the mummy's journey was shrouded in mystery. The mummy, as per the legend, was smuggled onto the Titanic by a wealthy passenger. This passenger, intrigued by the mystery and charm of the ancient world, was not deterred by the mummy's alleged curse. He arranged for the mummy to be hidden in a large, nondescript wooden crate, which was then stowed away in the ship's vast cargo hold, among countless other trunks and boxes. As the Titanic cut through the icy North Atlantic waves, the mummy lay silent and undisturbed, encased in darkness. Unbeknownst to the passengers and crew, the mummy, an artifact of a civilization long past, was on a journey across time and space, from the sandy dunes of Egypt to the depths of the Atlantic. Was this ancient mummy merely a passenger on this ill-fated voyage, or was it a harbinger of the tragedy that awaited the Titanic? As the mummy lay hidden, the Titanic met its fatal destiny. On April 14, 1912, the Titanic fatefully collided with an iceberg. This unsinkable ship, a marvel of human ingenuity, was crippled by the frozen menace that lurked in the dark, frigid waters of the North Atlantic. The Titanic, a symbol of luxury and opulence, was rendered helpless, its hull pierced and its fate sealed. Within 2 hours and 40 minutes, the Titanic was swallowed by the icy depths, a spectacle of terror and despair unfolding under the starlit sky. The world watched in shock and disbelief as the unsinkable Titan succumbed to the sea, taking with it over 1,500 souls. The echoes of their cries and the ringing of the ship's distress bells resonated through the ages, a grim reminder of the transience of human grandeur and the relentless power of nature. In the aftermath, an eerie suspicion began to spread. Could the disaster have been influenced by a force beyond our understanding? After the disaster, whispers circulated that the mummy's curse was to blame for the tragedy, but what was the basis for these claims? Tales emerged from survivors and their families, stories of strange occurrences and eerie coincidences that began as soon as the mummy was brought on board. Many claimed to have seen a crate, far larger than any other, being carefully loaded onto the Titanic. This, they said, contained the mummy, concealed from the eyes of the curious and the superstitious. Whispers followed that crew members who had handled the crate reported feeling uneasy, struck with sudden chills, and plagued by nightmares of a figure wrapped in white haunting the ship's corridors. Then, there was the ship's cat, a cherished fixture of the Titanic, who was said to have acted strangely in the days leading up to the voyage. She hissed at anyone who approached the crate and soon after, mysteriously disappeared. Some say she was the first to sense the impending doom. And we cannot ignore the infamous iceberg. A natural occurrence, yes, but was it merely coincidence that it appeared directly in the path of the Titanic, on a night with no moon and no wind, conditions that made spotting such a hazard nearly impossible? The legend of the cursed mummy, however, is not without its skeptics. Many argue that the curse is nothing more than a myth, a sensational tale spun to distract from the real causes of the disaster: human error, overconfidence, and inadequate safety measures. They point out that no record exists of a mummy being transported on the Titanic, and that the story is likely a concoction of imaginative minds fueled by grief and a need to make sense of such a catastrophic event. So, was this just a spooky coincidence or something more? The truth remains buried with the Titanic. The tale of the cursed mummy on the Titanic continues to intrigue and mystify. We've journeyed through the legend, the Cairo Museum incident, the mummy's alleged presence on board, and the tragic sinking. Yet the mystery remains. Was the mummy's curse responsible for this maritime disaster, or is it mere coincidence? Whether fact or fiction, the legend of the cursed mummy serves as a captivating piece of Titanic lore, reminding us of the power of stories and superstitions.